I didn't always believe in myself. I didn't always think that the sun would come out in the morning. You know, sometimes I felt like this was the end of the world and I had made all the wrong decisions. But because I've always been surrounded by very strong women in faith, my mother is very strong in her spirituality. She always has prayed for me and my kids and our whole entire family. And then I've been blessed to be a part of your life as long as I have. And you have really been an inspiration to me in strengthening my relationship with God. So God has held me down.
Hey everyone, it's me, Regina Hassan, your host for the Pregnant with Purpose podcast. And I am here today with the fantastic and awesome Jazmin Jones, founder and CEO of the CCN Studios.
Yeah.
See, I told you from that point on, the Community Cultivation Network. I have known her for quite a long time, since you were very young. So, because I don't want to give away my age, but I have her as my guest today to talk about her overcoming. That's what this season is about. I'm talking with people who have overcome obstacles in their lives and are still basically living out their God-given purpose. The podcast is talking about people who, in spite of all the challenges, all the barriers, they were still able to do what they had been called to do by God. So let me explain the sunglasses, because I am one of those overcomers. I have the disease of glaucoma. The bright light really bothers my eyes. So that's why I'm wearing sunglasses. It's not because I'm all cool, even though I'm all cool. All right. But I'm really anxious to get started and for Jazmin to tell you her story in the way that only she can tell it. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Jazmin Jones.
Hey, Miss Regina. Thank you for allowing me to come on the show. I see you record every week, so I've been looking forward to this because I love talking to you, of course. But I'm always inspired by the content that comes from Pregnant with Purpose. So it's just a blessing to be here.
Oh, thank you. You mean I had a choice? I could have said no, not to having you.
I mean, it would have been a rough conversation. It would have been like, okay, so no, I can't come on. So where you going to record at?
Right.
But yeah, I could talk a little bit about me. So I'm Jazmin J, CEO of Community Cultivation Network Studios, and the business umbrella. And I have had a very blessed life, but I have had to overcome some things. And when we talk about overcoming, I don't want to make it seem like when you overcome, it's you overcoming from a bad situation, because some of these things turned out to be blessings. Exactly. But it was just overcoming. At that time, it was a challenge.
Yes.
So I became a parent. This is the first time I had to learn to overcome, right? I became a parent at a very young age. I had my first daughter at 17. And by 21, I was married with 3 kids. And so that was very challenging at the time. When I first told my parents that I was pregnant, my mom was actually on vacation, her first vacation in like 20-something years.
Right.
And me being young and selfish, I didn't even know she was on vacation. But had I known, I probably still would have called her because I was ready to get it off of me, right?
Right.
So I gave her a call and I was like, hey, Mom, what you doing? She's like, what? I'm on vacation. She was like, what's up? I was like, I'm pregnant.
Click. Real blunt. Right. Just blunt. You
and
just
hung
threw it
up.
Out there.
She hung up on me. She said she didn't know she was being pranked. She didn't really know how to receive that. So she hung up. And then my dad, he was just like, I don't know what it would be like now that I'm a parent. I really respect my parents' response, because I probably would have. But my dad was just like, whatever you want to do. If you want to have an abortion, right. I support you in that. And he was even willing to fund that. And I was able to sit down with my dad and say, if I have an abortion, everyone else is going to be happy and I'm going to be the only one miserable for the rest of my life.
Right.
And right then he changed his mind. I mean, he's been supportive of me the entire time, but that was the first time I had to realize, like, oh, wow, life has changed. Mm-hmm. Like, man, bringing my baby home. I first of all didn't even have a place to stay where I was staying at the time. I was living with my mom, and her house was under new construction. So when we had the baby, her home was not a place for me to bring my baby home. So me and my mom and my baby went to live with my dad. And so my dad and my mom had been divorced for over 15 years at the time, and they were not necessarily the best co-parent at the time. And I love my parents, y'all know, but this is our truth.
Right.
So it was very surprising for my dad to allow us to come move in with him. And it really was
about that.
Yes, he let my mama come too. I'll never forget trying to have that conversation. I was like, Dad, I need to bring my baby home, and I cannot do this without my mama. So he just said, come on. And my sister even came. At one point, it was a whole household full. But it really showed me how to pull together as a family. And they supported me. And I was surrounded by people like yourself and other women who just encouraged me to just keep going, and that my life didn't have to stop there. And I was very determined to not be a statistic. The statistics that everyone was telling me I was going to be,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
You have a kid at a young age, your child won't be able to live the life and this and this and that. So I just made up my mind to have my baby, and my children won't grow up feeling like they had teenage parents. Mm-hmm. I was going to do whatever I needed to do to make sure that they had the life that I wanted for them to have. And so that's really why I'm here today. This is why I've gotten to the point where I'm at, because they've always been my motivation. I'm going to always do whatever I got to do to make sure my kids are good.
Well, tell me, I know this already, but, what was your idea? What did you think that your life was going to be like? Even I know the answer. But. Tell me what you had in mind.
I definitely didn't have in mind having children so young, but I always did see myself as a parent. Like, I would dream about like having my own family, having a husband, coming home from work, kissing my kids. I would see that, but I saw that years from now. I thought that I was going to graduate from high school. I was going to go to Baylor with my friend Nikki. Shout out to Nikki. We were going to go and become nurses.
Nurses. I remember that.
Yes. And my senior year is actually when I found out I was pregnant. And I had to call her to let her know she was going to be going to Baylor by herself. Mm-hmm, so she ended up going to Prairie View. But yeah, I thought my life, I thought I would go to college, become a nurse, live life, learn, and then at some point get married and start a family. But yeah, God had other plans for me. But the beauty in all of that is that when I turned 24, I was... before I turned 24, I was diagnosed with endometriosis. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I have a very rare diagnosis. Like, my endometriosis is like the worst they've seen. Like, what is this? Right. So at 24, my doctor told me, hey, you're going to have to have a C-section so that we can make sure that what you have doesn't turn into cancer. So at 20,
a hysterectomy.
I mean a hysterectomy. I'm sorry. I did have 3 C-sections though.
You did, right.
But a hysterectomy. So I ended up having a hysterectomy at 24, and I wouldn't have been able to have any kids. And by 24, I was already married with 3 kids. So it was really a blessing, because here I am at 35 doing what I'm doing here with the network and everybody here. I wouldn't be able to dedicate myself and do the things that I'm doing now if I were just now having children, or maybe having children 5 or 6 years ago. Now my kids are older, so it gives me a little bit more flexibility. So everything worked out the way it was supposed to.
Okay, so you married with 3 kids. What happened with the marriage?
So, like I said, got married at a very young age, trying to be the woman, the wife, the mother that I thought I should be. I grew up, my parents were divorced at a very young age. My parents got divorced when I was at a very young age, when I was 2. So I didn't really know what a good marriage looked like or what that was supposed to be. I just had ideas in my head. So we stayed married for about 9 years. And then when I was 29 years old, we divorced. And now we just try to focus on co-parenting, still being a family and showing our kids that the divorce was not because of them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're family forever, but I think at the time, we just grew up and we grew apart. That's the best way I can explain that. We were young, and the older we got, we wanted different things. And since we've been divorced, I feel like his life and my life, it has changed for the better.
Right. So how did you, young, 3 kids, single parent now, how did you manage to overcome all of that? I mean, what was the driving force? I know you said your kids have always been a motivation, but what else? Because I know it takes a lot.
Yeah, my kids are a motivation, but I think what grounded me is my relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Man, that's it. He's got me through nights where I didn't always believe in myself. I didn't always think that the sun would come out in the morning. Sometimes I felt like this was the end of the world and I had made all the wrong decisions. But because I've always been surrounded by very strong women in faith, my mother is very strong in her spirituality. She always has prayed for me and my kids and our whole entire family. And then I've been blessed to be a part of your life as long as I have. And you have really been an inspiration to me in strengthening my relationship with God. So God has held me down.
So you said your mom and her spirituality, but you also had 2 praying grandmothers.
Listen, let me tell you about my grandmothers. My dad's mom, Dory, she definitely was a praying woman. I mean, like the head of our family. And my mom's mother, who we just lost a little bit over a month ago, Mimi. Lord, I miss Mimi. Now that I'm older and I look back and I study my family history and who they were as women, it's just amazing. Like, I'm more confident in who I am. Like, I know that it's because of my grandparents, the people I've been surrounded with, my parents, that have gotten me to the point where I am today. And so prayers last forever. Absolutely.
You come from good stuff.
Absolutely. And not only that, at the time where I was married, I was blessed with a great mother-in-law. Me and my mother-in-law, we still ride to today, but I had a conversation with her last week, and she let me vent and vent. She always tell me, God got you. He always have. He always have. And Cherry prays for me. So God just has blessed me with wonderful women around to be inspired by.
So your circle.
Yeah, for sure.
That's always powerful. That's always powerful. So you've overcome with the help of God, and also, one of the things that I noticed about Jazmin, one of the things that I always noticed about her was Jazmin has a strong determination that once she gets her mind set on doing something, she pretty well is going to follow it through with it, and it's going to happen. I've seen her from a little young child. I've seen her do that. So talk about that.
It's funny you bring that up because you used to get on me about that. You just get your mindset on something. That's what you want, And the older I got, I recognize I am that way. Mm-hmm. And even with things that are not so positive, I've set my mind on it and I did what I needed to do. But when I look back, it taught me something about myself. On my podcast, I'm always talking about like self-evaluation and self-accountability. Like I learned, I am persistent. I do get my mind made up and I'm going to work towards it. But now as a woman that is more mature, I just choose to use it in a positive light.
Right. Exactly. And another thing too, you're persistent about the people in your life.
I don't play about them. Just say that.
But you're persistent about them, like being able to see folks. I told you this the other day.
Yeah.
That you have the ability to be able to see folks for who they could possibly be, not necessarily who they are. And you are a ride or die. You'll stick with somebody. Once you've dedicated your friendship or your heart or whatever, you pretty well stick with them to the end. Sometimes too far. Sometimes past the end.
Like expiration was 3 months ago, 5 years ago.
It's dead.
It's done.
Right.
But that is something. I do consider myself to be a very loyal person. I am a lover of people, and I do try to see the best in people because I see the best in myself. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I have developed, I would say, over the last, it's probably always been in me, but it's something that I recognize and I nurture within the last 3 to 5 years. I take relationships very seriously. Mm-hmm. because everything where I'm at in life today is based off of my experiences. And I've had so many experiences with the people in my life, and they're really important to me. So, yeah.
Okay, so tell us right quick. Tell us about the three motivators in your life. Tell us a little bit about JC. You know your kids.
Yeah, I know who you were talking about.
Because you look like a puzzle look on your face, like what?
Because I'm like, how can I put this?
Right,
you know?
right. JC, Joa, and Jason.
Yes.
JC,
my J's.
Jason, and Joa.
Yes,
Right.
my mother told me not to do that. She was like, "Why are you naming all them kids like that? Because
Right.
the older you get, it's gonna be harder to call for one of them." And I'm already dealing with that today. I'm just like, all of y'all, come here. But
nobody tell you.
Right. One thing, I am a young parent, so I'm very transparent with my children. We especially my oldest daughter, we kind of grew up together. So I sit down, and just like when I divorced their father, when we decided to get divorced, we sat down, we talked to them. When I decided to go full with the network and give all my time to it, I set my children down and talked to them. So the thing I love so much about them is that they are understanding, and they have a lot of qualities like me and their father. My oldest daughter, she wants to go to school to be a traveling nurse. And at first I had a hard time accepting that because we entrepreneurs over here. So I was ready for her to say she was going to have her own company in New York and whatever. And she was like, yeah, I want to be a medical assistant. And I was like, I looked down the table and I'm like, a medical assistant, okay. So, the more and more I brought her around and exposed her to things, she has found her way, and she's so beautiful, she's so smart, and I'm really proud to be her mother, and I'm looking forward to the things that she's gonna do in the future. And then my son, Mr. President, he is a natural born leader. Like he was diagnosed dyslexic, probably I think when he was in the 4th grade, and that hasn't stopped him at all. And what's so crazy about it is that his comprehension is out the roof. So every year when he starts school, I get a call from either the principal or the counselor like, do you know you got somebody special? I'm like, yeah, I know, but you're going to learn out what kind of special. Just call me back in 6 months. But, my main thing with my son is just keeping him he's going to be a leader no matter what. So it's keeping him surrounded with positive role models, positive men, and just keeping him grounded. And I'm looking forward to his future. And then we got Lil Joe. What I can say about Joe is Joe really inspires me. She's a true Gen Z, and the sky is the limit. Nothing intimidates her. She feels like she could do anything in the world, and that's inspiring to me, because I used to feel that way. The older I get, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can hang with these young kids no more. But I'm excited for her too. This network, she'll be running this place one day. She has a podcast on the network, just like you and I. So God, man, he, like I say, he does his thing. He blessed me with 3 wonderful children. But they I have to get with them sometimes, like any other parent.
But your children are, one word that I would describe your children with is resilient.
Oh, yeah.
Your children are resilient. Everything that, you've encountered or gone through and your challenges, your children have a resiliency that is remarkable.
Yes, I agree with that. And what's so funny is I was talking to my son and my youngest daughter this week on the phone. Why I took them, it was my son's birthday, so they went and got new phones. And we were sitting there, and I was just kind of in a daze thinking about things up here. And my son just out the blue, he just looked over there and he was like, Mom, it's going to be okay. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you always in deep thought. And he was like, you really doing a good thing. Just their perspective on how they see things let me know that it's not all in vain, Right. And I drag my kids out the house. When we doing events and stuff, you got to work. You're on the cleaning team. You're on registration. You're in the building.
Right.
And it just makes me feel good to know that they are picking up, even if they're not doing what I think they should be doing. I'm like, I'm your mama. You should be such and such and such, but my kids are really, they're becoming their own. And as a parent, I mean, that's the best right there.
Yeah, that is. Mm-hmm. So, anything else you want to talk to us about?
Like I was talking about on my podcast, and something I just want to continue to share because I feel like this is where God has me right now, and that's just self-evaluation. Just taking a look at yourself, because what I've learned over the last 3 years is manifestation is real. The power of prayer is real. So whatever you want to do in life or wherever you imagine yourself being, the only thing that's stopping you from getting there is you. And so sometimes you got to look in the mirror and you got to see all the things you're doing right and all the things that you need to work on and come up with a plan. And so that's been working for me. I've implemented that in my personal life. I implemented that here in the business. Here at the network, we have a lot of interns, so I try to teach them the same thing, and it's working. So I just want to share that with anybody who needs that information. Maybe you do have a challenge or you're going through something and you just feel like you're left alone. Pray about it and look within yourself to see how you can maneuver out of that situation.
And to add to that, my thought is this. Remember that your feelings aren't fact. They aren't the truth. Search for the truth in whatever it is that you're doing. I find that to be the most for me, because sometimes I don't feel like a certain thing. Like I can feel like I'm all alone, but the truth is I'm not.
Right.
So that's going to do it for us.
Yes.
Did a good show. It's my, I have this little segment that I do called You Know You're Old when, so this past weekend was a very busy weekend for me. I end up going to a play. So you're old when, you know you're old when you go to plays at 2:00 in the afternoon. You are old, right? And then after the play, you and a bunch of your friends who also know that they're old, we can't decide what we want to eat, where we want to eat it, and how we're going to get there, So that's all in my, you're old. I was just going through it this weekend, and I was just laughing at how, we're at a play at 2:00. And then I look around and, most of the people that are there are our age. So this is what you do when you get to be our age, when you get to be 60 plus.
You go to daytime plays.
You go to daytime plays. You also went to daytime plays when you were in elementary school. So that's it. That's another segment for Pregnant with Purpose. Remember how I like to say it. If you're not dead, God's not done. See you. Bye.